Welcome, everyone. Good morning, afternoon, or evening, depending on where in the world you are. Just looking forward to getting into this new wonderful webinar talking about student and staff engagement, growth of learning using the ACE protocol, but also really focusing on student well-being. It will be a great opportunity for you to hear from and with a teacher and students from the Peter Gruber International Academy in the Virgin Islands. I think it's a wonderful opportunity. Michael has been working with ACE protocol in his previous school in South Korea, and now here, using it to leverage wonderful opportunities for well-being development for students. And we're very lucky to have three of his students with us. I'm gonna not take any more time with introductions, but hand over to Michael. Michael, all yours.
All right. Just gonna open up my screen. You seeing my screen there?
Yep.
Excellent. All right, well, welcome everyone. It's really great to be on with you today. I've got three special guests with me that I would like to introduce. My name is Michael Fisher. I'm the 6th through 12th grade director at the Peter Gruber International Academy in the Virgin Islands. And I'll start by saying I'm just an educator, just like the rest of you. So we've done some cool work and we're excited to share that, but we're in a school office. You'll probably see kids, hear kids walking by. So excited to be on with you today. And
Hi, I'm Lexi. I've been at VIMSIA for 13 years.
Hi, my name is Amri. I'm in the 10th grade and I've been in the PGIA for 4 years.
Hi, my name's Caden. I'm also in 10th grade and I've been at this school for 2 years.
awesome. So I'll kick it off today by just putting in a plug for ACE. For those of you who are a part of NEASC or NEASC accreditations, a lot of this work stems from the ACE experience. And really seeing our communities and our students and our school as more than just a set of boxes to check or processes that have to be in place. It's really about the whole campus, the whole learning experience, and all the students. So wonderful protocol. Today, I will share with you, we'll be presenting on three main areas: why we took this innovative approach to supporting students, both mental and physical, emotional well-being, how we went about that, how we identified our problem and planned to address it, and then the details, a big chunk of time on what we actually did. We'll pause in between each section to address some questions and answers. So throughout the presentation today, if you'd like to pop those in the Q&A box, we'll try to get to as many as possible throughout the presentation. All right, so the why. If we think back a couple of years, folks, there were quite a few needs out there. Mental health crisis around the world. COVID really highlighted and spotlighted the need for us to address mental health with our students and our faculty. Student engagement and satisfaction for us was a big deal. We wanted to improve the engagement our students had and their satisfaction with learning. Our teachers needed to be engaged. COVID was tough, and we realized that engaged teachers help to produce engaged students. At our school, we wanted to build, and we've always had a strong sense of community and culture, but especially coming out of COVID, we really wanted to focus and address the need for strong community and strong culture building at our school. Of course, social emotional well-being for our students, not just because of COVID, but because we know that human beings, students, aren't going to learn well if they're not feeling well. So to kick it off, I'd like to bring our students back up. I'll bring them up one at a time, and they're going to share some of their perspectives on what are some of the challenges that they experienced prior to last school year when we implemented this program. So who wants to start? Caden, come on up.
All right, so for me, some of the challenges prior to Volts Wednesdays were, one big one was the stress level. So the workload, it caused me to be very stressed, and oftentimes I felt like I didn't have enough time to get my work done, and I was like working too long at home to the point where I was just way too stressed. So with Volts Wednesdays, I have that extra day, some extra study time to just get my work done, and I've been significantly less stressed after that.
Awesome. Thank you, Kaden. Lexi, would you like to come on up?
Prior to Volts Wednesday, I was more stressed and overwhelmed during the week because I had all my classes so smushed together. And so it was just a lot to like process when I would get home, and I would be forgetting stuff and not really focusing in class as much.
And Omri.
So before Volts Wednesday, our schedule was having classes back to back to back for 5 days in a row. So this did not leave a lot of opportunity and time to get work done outside of having to sacrifice time at home or having to stay school longer. So Volts Wednesdays just provide that time for me to get dedicated time into extracurriculars as well, and as getting work done.
Awesome. So these students were all a part of this program that we implemented last year. So you just heard a little bit about some of the challenges that they experienced prior to this. We call the program Volts Wednesdays. You heard students mention that. So a little bit of context about who we are and where we are. We're an international IB school in the Virgin Islands. Yes, look at that picture. That's where we live. That's where we work. And being on a beautiful small island in the Caribbean also comes with its challenges. Our students went through 2 Category 5 hurricanes about 6 years ago that really devastated the island. And then just when the island was getting back on its feet, COVID hit, which pulled these kids back out of the classroom, back out of their face-to-face learning opportunities. So they've really been through a lot of challenges. And I know you all have your own challenges that you've gone through as well, and your students. But we're a small school of about 300 students, pre-K through 12th grade. Our middle and high school are about 140 students. So I'll share just briefly, I had an opportunity, really great opportunity, to pursue my doctorate and to use my day job and this desire to improve learning and opportunities for students as the focus of my dissertation. And one of the wonderful things about this approach is that instead of doing research for the sake of research, which is awesome, this is more of a practitioner approach. So research by educational leaders for the purpose of improving something within the educational realm, the day-to-day work. So we approached this initiative, this deep dive into improving opportunities at our school with an improvement science lens. Real briefly, improvement science is different than your typical educational change. Normally in education, it's something like fire, ready, aim, where we're just taking on whatever the program of the day is, whatever the fad that's out there in this program or this SEL model or this sort of testing, whatever it might be. And we don't even stop to ask the question, what are we trying to address as the school? We don't pause to ask, did it work? Did we get the changes? Did we move the dial on what it is that we're trying to address? In an improvement science approach, we take a deep look at the root cause and problem analysis. So we spend time up front asking, all right, what's going on that's led to this situation? And what is it that we're actually trying to address? We then develop a theory of action. If we do these things, we believe we'll get the results that we're after. We plan for data collection along the way and for follow-up based on that data. And then we have these iterative cycles where we plan, we do it, we implement, we study how it's going, and then we update, we act. And so these cycles were about 4 weeks at a time. And we iterated, we're on version 3.0 at this point of this Volts Wednesday program. And this is what our root cause analysis actually looked like. This is a picture of the whiteboard in the classroom where we had a group of smart people who spent about 2 hours, 3 hours really digging in and asking what's gone on at our school, what's gone on in our culture, what's the background, the challenges that have led to the situation that we're in, and what is the problem of practice that we really want to take on? Why are we even here having this conversation? That's a fishbone diagram for those who may want to look into it.
Michael, quick question for you. Folks are asking, what does the Volts Wednesday stand for?
So we are a green school. a solar powered school, and our mascot is the Volt. And so I'll share the details about this program that we implemented. It's not really a program, it's a series of actions that we took. Sorry, there's a loud water truck going by. It's a series of actions that we took to address this challenge. So Volt is our mascot. The program takes place on Wednesdays, and so we call it Volt's Wednesdays. All right. Oh, hey, look at that. We're to pause for Q&A, so perfect timing. Are there any other questions at this point, Darlene? Oh, Darlene, I think you're muted.
Yeah, no, sorry. That was the big question so far. I was trying to understand it. Did you bring, here we go. Did you bring this idea or did it come from students? That's a nice question.
That's a really great question. So this came from students, parents, faculty members, community. When I was hired on a couple of years ago into this role, the school had just gone through an accreditation process and had done a series of types of community engagement, from student surveys to faculty surveys to conversations with parents and community members. And there were several needs that surfaced. And really the combination of those needs and the desire to address them resulted ultimately in this program. And what I would say also is that this isn't a package deal. It's not like you take the Volts Wednesday program and you drop it in somewhere else at another school. This is a response to local needs in the local context, and any one element that we're going to share about today could be applied in any school around the world. But it won't work unless it's really the right fit and you make adjustments for your own local context.
I'm going to suggest that you slip back one slide to your fish diagram, just because that gives a little more context. There's a couple of other questions. Which age group did you target? And is this admin driven, set of an iterative, or again, it's that, how much is it students, how much is it the community?
Yeah, awesome. So I pulled together an improvement team, and that improvement team consisted of eight folks from our community, faculty members, administrators, and that team took the input from students, parents, community members to work through this process that you're seeing right here, the first stage of it, and you'll see several other stages. And then along the way, we collected survey feedback from students. We conducted interviews of students and parents and teachers. So we collected data. That team collected data along the way. So a lot of the iterations and improvements that we've made stem from student feedback or student ideas or teacher feedback.
With the survey, what were the questions really focused on getting feedback around?
Yeah, so there's a lot of different metrics out there. We use the CASEL, C-A-S-E-L. It's an organization that's been around a long time. So we use the CASEL survey, how I feel about my class and school. And so we selected a series of questions from that survey that we surveyed students at various points over time, prior to implementing, during implementation, and after the first year.
We have another question, which I think you're going to answer as we get closer to the other sections, but does Volt Wednesday mean no classes for students? Any timetable issues with DP? And I'm saying, you're going to answer that as we get there.
I'm going to answer that. So that's interesting. I will tell you, it doesn't mean that we stop learning. There's a whole lot of learning that happens on Volts Wednesdays. Students do not attend their typical academic classes, with the exception of our DP students, who part of their day is HL extension time. So those of you in a DP setting, you'll know what HL extension time means. That the extra hours that we need to grab in order to meet the higher level standards for those courses.
And we've got another couple of questions. Did the entire process inform your strategic planning? Is it feeding into your ongoing planning?
Yeah, it's really interesting. They're inseparable. Because, and I would say one of the biggest keys as a school, so this root cause analysis that you're looking at right now, our head of school was in this process. Directors for both levels, the elementary level and the secondary level, teachers, counselors, leaders. So when we started to dig into this, while we were were focused on one element, improving student satisfaction and well-being, it was impossible to separate from all the other elements of our strategic plan because the roots are the roots of everything in our school and community. They're all interconnected. And so this process is deeply connected to our strategic plan, and really inseparable.
Another question, just for clarification, people are asking what grade levels are involved, and you've mentioned DP as having slightly separate, but it was the whole school, right?
6th through 12th grade.
6th through 12.
Our school is pre-K through 12, and this work was done with our 6th through 12th grade.
Brilliant. So we'll explore how that was managed, I think, in the next section.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay.
All right.
Hang on a minute. That we've answered whole school. That's okay. So we've covered all the questions. You're ready to go.
Awesome. And we're 4 minutes ahead of schedule, so we're going to have lots of time for questions, I think.
Absolutely.
All right. So I share with you the why we needed to do something. The next level is the how, and this isn't the specific details and logistics. This is asking the question, what are the big ideas that if we address these, we're likely to see the change that we want? And so the next phase of this improvement science process, this is called a driver diagram. And again, this is the whiteboard in my office. And our improvement team did this work. This is exactly what it looked like on the wall. So the primary drivers, you can see our goal there on the left. The primary drivers are what we believe, if we were to do these things, if we were to have consistent and effective communication aligned to our values, if we were to provide choice, empowering our students with autonomy and agency, if we model shared values of life balance and wellness, and if we provide opportunities for relationship building, making connections, and building an authentic community, then we will achieve those results that we're after. And so the primary drivers lead to the secondary and tertiary drivers, which start to drill down a little bit, and then it flows into the specific change ideas. This is our plan of action right here once we get to the change ideas. And this is an iterative process. So at every point along the way that we collected data, we would come back, the improvement team would come back to this and say, okay, are the drivers still correct? Are the secondary drivers producing the change that we want, or do we need to update? And so at each one of those phases, we did indeed make some adjustments and updates to this. So these were our big buckets. This is the how. How are we going to accomplish this? We're going to provide the choice, the mental, emotional, physical break, which you'll see in the schedule, opportunities for students and faculty to explore. And you'll see specifically what we're currently doing this semester. All of our kids need to be seen and heard, and our faculty. We want to build community. We really want to give kids the opportunity to lead. At our school, the school is owned and run by the students, and that's our philosophy. So we provide a lot of opportunities, and you'll hear from some of the students about what that looked like. And then culture is everything. If we don't have culture in place, then really nothing else is going to be effective. So speaking of, I'd like to call the students back up. They're going to answer this prompt for you. For me, Volts Wednesday is. Okay.
So for me, Volts Wednesdays is really an opportunity to explore both new and existing passions that I have. And so this semester I decided to do sailing, which I'm super excited about. I've been wanting to do it for a while, but I didn't really want to join the sailing team because I don't have any experience with it. And so Volts Wednesdays gave me the opportunity to explore that, learn how to do it, and also get to know students better through it, students from different grades that I might not have been able to get to know had I not had Volts Wednesdays not existed.
Thank you, Kaden. Lexi?
For me, Volts Wednesdays is a break in the week where I'm able to get my work done and kind of relax and prepare myself for the next 2 days of the week. It's also a chance for me to spend time with some of my friends from other grades that I would not be able to do otherwise because we're in different grades.
Thanks, Lexi. And Omri?
Okay, so for me, Volts Wednesdays is a time for me to be able to bond with my classmates due to our class being split up so often. I never really got to know the entire class altogether, so that was a really nice time to be able to know them. It also promotes bonds in the community, so cross grades, people and seeing people you wouldn't usually see every day. And for me, another one is to be able to explore different passions that I have. Because in the future, I know I would like to go into business. So in the mornings, I am a leader for the student cafe that basically gives the school breakfast every Votes Wednesday. So being able to have that experience and dedicated time to help with those skills is a perfect, well, thing for me on a Votes Wednesday.
Thank you, Omri. I just had to spotlight that a little bit more. Omri is one of the student managers of our student-run cafe. There's you'll see a whole bunch of students on Volts Wednesdays up there, but what you won't see is an adult. They wrote their business plan, they fundraise, they manage their own finances, they buy supplies, they prepare food, and they're quite successful. So you'll see when we get to some of the logistics of where that fits in the structure of Volts Wednesdays, but Omri is one of our managers. They interview, they hire, they train. Sometimes they have to fire some of their employees if they're not meeting expectations. All right, so I want to pause right here and see if we have questions. Just checking yep, okay. See if we have any questions for any of these students or myself. The next section that we're going to get into are all the details. So all the logistics of how we break up the day, what students do, what teachers do, we'll share that in the next section. But want to give a chance right now to pause if there's questions.
Can I ask you just to go back to the primary drivers and maybe pull some of that out a little bit more to explain how you went from the primary to the secondary drivers? The actual diagram, that would be great.
Yeah. So
talk us through that.
So we start with the big things that here's what we believe will ultimately make this happen. And then within our context, so for example, the second driver you see on this whiteboard is choice and empowerment, providing autonomy and agency. So those secondary drivers for us were that we were going to allow students to choose their student life blocks, which are the courses and clubs they get to participate in on Volts Wednesdays. That we would allow students to lead and promote their own clubs and courses, and that we were going to trust students. We were going to give them space on this day. Our Volts Cafe is a great example. The first hour and a half of the day, teachers are all in professional learning and collaborative time, and our students have access to various activities on the campus. We have a few parents who kind of hang out on campus to help monitor, but honestly, it's not necessary. The students know what to do and they do it well. So then we went from those secondary drivers to, okay, what is it that we're actually going to do? And we met with students individually, gave them options to explore and change some student life courses. We launched a student cafe, which was actually that was a student's idea. So that exists because students suggested it. So that's an example of how we flowed from the big idea down to the details of how we would implement.
Could you speak just quickly to the shared values and the faculty? That third primary driver.
Yes. Yeah. So in education, it's so funny. You all know this, that we as educators and human beings know that you have to have you have to be a balanced person. This is one of the IB learner profile traits. We all know that to be good for our students, we have to be taking care of ourselves. We know this, right? We preach it. We talk about it. We got to get home. We got to exercise. We got to eat well. We got to spend time with our family. Yet then we come to school and we're like, all right, students, the IB, the diploma program, there's going to be a lot of work. So we're just going to load it on and you're probably going to be stressed out, but we'll bring you cookies once in a while. And it's just 2 years of your life. So just get stressed out and it'll be okay. And there's a big disconnect there. And so we said, wait a minute, if we actually believe this, we all have to model it. And then we have to help train our students to reflect and to work towards that balance in their own lives. It doesn't work to say it and not do it.
I think there'll be questions about how the staff manage that one later. But at the moment, here's a question regarding Volts Wednesdays. Is it about exploring students' personal interests? How do you manage and supervise off campus, like sailing in the service? I guess that's the next section, right?
Yeah, that'll be in the next section. And I will tell you that our faculty get to propose ideas that they want to do for Volts Wednesday. So last semester, we had a faculty member who's a professional clown on the side, and he offered a clowning class. And our kids learned to be clowns, and they went and worked with younger students and took it out into the community. So passion for him, and kids jumped on board with that. We currently have a Dungeons and Dragons club that happens during Volts Wednesdays that is entirely student-led. And let me tell you, it's almost all of the IB learner traits all in one. But that was their idea. They wanted to run it. Caden led a Model United Nations group as a student leader, as well as we have a student-led jazz ensemble that plays. So it's a combination of what teachers want to propose and what students want to do.
One of the question has been, are there plans to push this into the lower school, into elementary?
So our elementary program at the school is a Montessori program. And so many of these elements already exist in Montessori. And so, yeah, like some of it just culturally spills over, and folks are like, hey, this is great. We like these cross grade level assemblies and community activities. And we were already doing some of this. So yeah, it's contagious, but the whole structure of the program for us will still sit in 6th through 12th grade.
Brilliant. Okay.
And at your own school, you could absolutely run this at any grade level.
Yeah, you could. I think we've got one question, and that is really, can we highlight the students' work in the cafe? It would be great if we could hear. We've got time on schedule to give a couple more minutes to discussing what were their objectives and responsibilities with the student cafe.
So Omri and Lexi were both involved in the cafe. So you come up and stand up here with me. I'll say a few things and then you guys can jump in. So this is, well, so Lexi, you were involved last year, right?
And this year.
Yeah, but both years. So Lexi was, and were you involved last year?
Yes.
Okay, so they were both in from the ground up. So I'm just gonna let them talk. Then why did this, how did the student cafe come about, and tell a little bit more about what it looks like and what you guys do.
Want me to start?
Step up.
Oh, okay. So, like all businesses, we had to create a business plan. And this idea originally came from one of my classmates wanting to just sell treats, but then it became a lot of work. So she stepped down. So, and then people from like another grade level above ended up taking over. So writing the business plan, we started with with our first sale, having different treats, different goods, just simple breakfast stuff. And from there, we bought all of our appliances. So everything that we see in the kitchen today has been bought with all of the money that we made. And at the end of the day, this money can go towards different things that the school needs, like the prom, fundings and different things like that.
To start our creation with Student Cafe, we met with a local chef, and he kind of helped us guide our building. And then from there, it was completely student-led, where we opened up the cafe and learned how to manage the different roles inside of it, as well as managing money and the stress that came with it of trying to do everything with just a few people.
Can I ask, what are your, hang on, before you go, don't run away. What do you see that you're learning out of this opportunity to do something completely different and outside the academic? What are you learning? What impacts it having?
What you told me the other day.
So, like I said, I wanted to become a business owner when I become older. So this is all, and I'm also starting a business. I was starting a business over the summer, but I kind of had to put that on pause because school started back. So this is all training me with leadership skills, management of people in general. So having to train them with little to no or a lot of knowledge based off of the field that they're going to go into. So this is all about how to run a business 101 for me. So the necessities, what needs to happen in order for business to function. If it includes like, I also learned like boundaries for like a really big thing in business. So it's like, I knew it, but now that I had to apply it, it becomes like a lot more like, oh, this really makes sense as why you don't hire certain people or do certain things with certain people.
Thank you.
I'll share just one anecdote, a beautiful story. So the two cafe managers from last year, they're in 11th grade this year, and they said, hey, you know what, going into the diploma program, we don't think we have time to manage the cafe this year. So we're going to help train though, and make sure that our new managers are successful. And so if you would have been here on our first Volts Wednesday, you would have seen these two managers from last year off to the side, doing nothing but being supportive and providing a little bit of coaching if necessary. And I mean, they didn't have training in how to do this. They just did it. And they said, we want this legacy to last. And so they have really successfully handed off the reins, and our new managers here are absolutely crushing it. They're doing a phenomenal job.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, both to the students and you. The only other question I've got here is any thoughts on measuring impact on academics and achievement? And I think you covered that through the what and the research. So no more questions for now.
Okay. All right, let's get into some of the details. And again, each one of these elements is specific to our local context and needs. So you might say, oh, I really like that. That fits our school and our needs. Awesome. But this shouldn't be seen as some sort of package that you just take the whole thing and drop it in somewhere. Mm. All right, so the framework for us for Volts Wednesdays, timing was really important. Our students go through one full rotation of classes between Monday and Tuesday, and then they go through another rotation of classes on Thursday and Friday. So by dropping Volts Wednesday, it only happens for us on the Wednesday of a 5-day school week. So it's not every week, but when we have a 5-day school week, it happens on the Wednesday. And you heard our students talk about their own stress levels, anxiety, mental health. They go through a full cycle of classes. Then they have this day where there's a lot that happens, but one thing that doesn't happen is homework. There's no work assigned and there's no grades involved with Volts Wednesdays. So they have opportunities to meet with teachers, come to a study hall early in the morning, get extra support, catch up. And some of our anecdotal feedback through interviews, students made comments like, I am more rested, I'm happier, I'm spending time with my family, I'm eating dinner with my family now, I'm getting more sleep, thanks to having this Volts Wednesday in the middle of the week. And our students and our teachers alike, they don't like 4-day school weeks because we don't have Volts Wednesdays on 4-day school weeks. So timing was a big deal for them. Professional learning and collaborative time for our faculty happens in the morning. So this creates a late start from 8 to 9:30 on our Volts Wednesdays. Teachers are all working together. Students are able to choose. They can stay home and come to school late, or they can come on campus and participate in one of a variety of activities that are supported by students or parents from the community. For example, we have yoga that happens in the morning, basketball, soccer, study hall, student cafe, chess club. And I would say 50% of our students come to school at the regular time and do those things, and 50% choose to come late. We really needed this connection for all of our students to be seen and heard and to promote social emotional learning. So advisory is a key part of our Volts Wednesdays. About 6 to 7 students with one faculty member, and they are a group for at least the whole school year. And in some cases, that faculty will loop with their advisory the following year as well. We do community activities. The students mentioned this. Cross grade level activities. You might see 6th graders hanging out with 12th graders and 11th graders with 9th graders, and assemblies that are very positive, upbeat, spotlight student presentations, performances, and highlight some key cultural and global events that are taking place. Our student life blocks, they happen twice. There's two student life blocks on Volts Wednesdays. They're 90 minutes each. And this is where they get to do this exploration and learning. And I'll share with you all of them that are currently underway. I mentioned our extension time. So I'm going to show you a schedule where you'll see that for our 11th and 12th grade students, they have hour-long extensions for their higher level courses. And here it is. Here's our schedule. So on the left side of your screen, these are our 6th through 10th grade students. The schedules are very similar. The morning looks the same for everybody. Late start for an hour and a half, little break, and then we roll straight into advisory to start the day for students. And that's just a 30-minute advisory at the beginning of the day. And then all of our students, 6th grade through 12th grade, have the first student life block, and they go to lunch. And this is where we differentiate. our MYP students in grades 6 through 10, they go to a second student life block after lunch, and they either go to advisory at the end of the day, or we have an assembly, or we have some other community type activity. Whereas our 11th and 12th graders, after lunch, they go through HL extension blocks, depending on what higher level classes they have. And if we have an assembly, that last HL extension block from 2:20 to 3:15, that is canceled so that all of our students 6th through 12th grade can come to our assemblies. These are current, and they change every semester, but these are the current student life blocks, courses, and clubs that we are offering. Some of these you'll see are academic focused. Some are student led. Some, the Montessori mentor. We've got our secondary students going and working with younger classrooms. Coding and game development. Crocheting is a student-led course. Yes, crocheting. And that is one of our most popular. We have like 30 students who are in learning to crochet. In fact, this was made by the student who is leading the crocheting club. It's pretty impressive. We got a local mechanic who comes in and offers a mechanics course for several of our students. Snorkeling, we are in the Caribbean, so we do snorkeling and marine exploration, as well as learning to sail. Caden mentioned that. You can see just a wide range of options for students, and this is just this semester. It'll change again next semester. All right, so let's pause for a moment. And what questions do you have about the logistics, perhaps?
Well, the first question that came up is attendance mandatory, or could they stay at home for the whole day if they wanted?
That's a great question. Attendance is mandatory. And any guess what our average attendance is on Volts Wednesdays? Okay, I'll tell you. It's 99%. Average of 99% attendance on Volts Wednesdays.
Yeah, I think that was an interesting one. I guess with a day like that, why would you want to stay at home with all of those great things to do? So one teacher is saying we started some things like this, but noticed less attendance. Students wanted to stay home, but you're saying they are all attending. Why? How would you explain? You think that this higher? Ask the students.
Let's ask the
would
students.
they
I was going to
explain?
say, come on up, guys. Why do you think that we have the highest attendance of the school week on Volts Wednesdays?
Who wants to go first?
I can go. So
Here, step up so you don't like them.
Okay. So I think it's just because students like really enjoy the student life blocks. They enjoy getting to have time to like hang out with their classmates, or like I said earlier, people from different grade levels, and just, you know, getting that opportunity to explore things that they wouldn't have the chance to explore otherwise. Like, why wouldn't you come to school for that?
Fair enough.
Dad?
Pretty much the same as Caden, but like on Volts Wednesdays, you're not really doing any classes for us as MYP students. We don't have classes, so it's more fun to go to school and to be with your friends doing these things that you find interesting, instead of just staying home by yourself, basically.
Okay, so for me, I like coming to Volts Wednesdays because I can choose what I want to do on my Wednesday. I can choose how I want to spend my time. So like I said, my student cafe, and then I have my first student life block, which would be campus and gardening improvement, which I started with my friend in 9th grade. So that is something I really enjoy doing, gardening and maintaining the campus, being able to contribute to the maintenance of our campus, showing and reflecting that we as students also care about how our campus looks. And for my second one, I also get to do a study hall. So I don't have to worry about taking in work, but more getting things submitted and getting things done. So it's all a very productive and fun day for me as well.
Brilliant. Thank you very much.
You guys
Thank
just stay
you.
up. I think there might be more questions for you. All right.
We've had lots of questions about the attendance.
I'll throw something in there, Darlene, right now. Some people might wonder, okay, wait a minute. You're not going, but how do you get all the hours for your classes? And are we
This is the
sacrificing
question.
class time? So there are 10 Volts Wednesdays in our first semester and 10 in the second semester. For the MYP, we more than double the required hours. Our students are actually getting almost HL level hours, 120 hours a year in the MYP in 6th through 10th grade, even with our Volts Wednesday in place. The IB, if you're an IB school, the IB gives you flexibility with the number of course hours that you have for this reason. And we all know, it's one of those things that we know, but we don't always act on it. We know that when students are mentally well, their emotion, their anxiety, they're physically well, they're learning more. And so, for example, our HL math teacher said that he got further in the curriculum last year than he had ever gotten before, even with this program in place. So it does not adversely impact how far we get and the amount of class time students have.
That was actually the next question, was how do you manage the curriculum? And when teachers feel under pressure to get exam ready and cover all aspects, you're saying that that's not actually an issue because the kids in the class time that they're in are able to do more. Is that what's happening?
Exactly. And brain-based research in the last 20 years has really come a long way. And so we used to think that the formula was more instructional minutes equals greater learning, but that's actually not true. Quality of instructional minutes and readiness to learn have a dramatic impact on how much students learn. And so when we actually look at our students as human beings and say, what do you need? And we help address that, they come to class much more ready. They're able to get work done and be focused. And instead of just checking the box and completing an assignment, our students are now much more likely to actually be engaged in what they're learning. And I'll show you the data. Our data supports that.
In the research. And one of the other questions, like, could you share your DP schedule? I think that would be something someone could write to you about. And maybe you can share at the end of the session.
Yeah, we're 90-minute classes, rotating blocks. So students go to 4 classes each day, half of them on one day, half of them the next day.
What about parents' response to Volts Wednesdays? They would have been a bit skeptical at the beginning, I would have thought.
Yeah, I mean, so at the end of the day, what do parents really care about? When their kid comes home and they see how their kid is, mentally, emotionally, engagement. And so, yeah, at first there were some questions like, what is this? What's going on? But honestly, there has been little to no pushback from parents, and actually quite the opposite of parents seeing the program being like, holy cow, this is so cool. I wish I would have had this when I was a kid. I mean, who doesn't want their kid to go learn how to sail a boat? When we look back and say, all these successful people in life, we don't look back and say, hey, you remember that one unit in math that we did in the middle of 10th grade? God, that really had an impact on me. No, but hey, I learned to sail when I was in school. I got to run a cafe, and I look back and this totally changed the trajectory of my life and helped me become who I am today.
It's a brilliant answer. Thank you so much, Michael. Okay. So we're looking forward to listening to and hearing some of the research and what you're finding about the impact of this is. Thanks so much, students, as well.
All right. Onward. The research. So I'm sharing with you 9 questions, not all of which did we attempt to address through this. But I'll show you. This is these results are from pre-Volts Wednesdays to after our first semester of implementing Volts Wednesdays. We use a 5-point Likert scale. We didn't write the questions. Castle wrote the questions. So they're well vetted and have been validated externally. And the maximum score would be a 5 that a student would give. So you can see some of these that really stand out. For example, kids like to come to school, how adults treat students. Question 6, being interested in what I'm learning in class. We didn't necessarily anticipate that Volts Wednesday was going to dramatically increase students' interest in their regular classes, but it did. students were seeing the connection. They're like, okay, I learned this and now I got to use it and I see why maybe it matters. Choice, and then the number 9, the sense of belonging. That was a really dramatic improvement. And I think when we give these questions again, we're likely to see these numbers go up even higher. The one area that we didn't intend to address through this, but question number 3, that student to student work, we've actually implemented a character education program this year targeting this particular question, how students interact with, treat, and care about one another. And that need came from this survey. So we weren't attempting to address that with Volts Wednesday, but because we gathered this data, we've since gone and done some work there. All right, I'm going to bring the kids back up, students, and the question is, how has Volts Wednesdays impacted you as a person and a learner?
So for me, I'm gonna use the example of when I led the music ensemble last year. Omri mentioned it before, but developing those leadership qualities was a really big thing for me. Working with people who maybe had different perspectives, different ideas on what we should play, even down to like the genre of music. So it was a new experience for me, kind of like managing, like, okay, how do we move forward with all these different perspectives? What do we do? And this, I've noticed, can also be applied in the classroom, right? Because we use similar leadership qualities, similar like teamwork skills, managing, different ideas and how to make it all work. So, yeah.
Thank you, Kaden. Lexi?
So for me, last year I was able to lead the yearbook and designing our school's yearbook, figuring out all the different components of the yearbook. And for me, I was only working with one other person, which was very stressful. But for Volts Wednesday, from Volts Wednesday, it has given me time to work on the yearbook in school, as well as getting my other work done from home, like homework. And so that when I got home, I wasn't extremely focused on trying to get all this work done and get the yearbook done, and I wasn't freaking out as much at home.
Thanks, Lexi. And Omri?
So, let me see. I want to mention this. So, with having more time to focus on my work, I can send in more focus on the quality of the work and be less focused on just getting the assignment done just for the sake of getting it done and making sure it's not turned in late and you have to stay for study hall. So, and I also get to complete multiple goals at once. So our school requires us to get at least 5 different service activities done by the end of the school year. So Student Cafe helps with that, and plus also being able to work on future goals without having to get an internship. And yeah, that's it.
Thank you, Omri.
Brilliant.
All right, so we still have about 10 minutes left, but just a quick recap. All of our contexts are, as educational leaders, are individual and unique. And what I would hope you take away is there's this really cool process where we can pause and get some people together and ask what is going on within our community, within our context. What are some of the root causes that have brought us to where we're at today, and be intentional about designing a plan of action, a theory of action to help achieve what it is that you need to achieve. Taking individual components versus this whole package makes a lot of sense to me. I wouldn't want anybody to say, awesome, I'm just going to copy that schedule and we're going to run it at our school. Likely not to work. Culture is more powerful than anything. There's culture eats process for breakfast, folks. Anthony Muhammad said that, and it's very true. So if we don't start with working on the culture in our school and the culture of, hey, students are human beings and there's a lot more to learning than taking tests and checking the boxes. By the way, we're an IB school, very rigorous program. We have a strong focus on academics, but building that culture that says it's more than that. A whole child education is more than that. That's super important. And we've got a few minutes here at the end for additional questions. You guys want to come back up in case these are directed at you?
Mm-hmm. I guess one of the questions that's come up is, there's always some students that are not going to do the right thing or, push against the structure. How are you working with or dealing with student misbehavior or bullying or anything? Is that an issue on these days because there's so much freedom?
Yeah, so at the very beginning, we probably had maybe 6 or 8 students out of 140 who weren't where they were supposed to be or weren't doing what they were supposed to do and had to be trained on how to handle the freedom responsibly. This year, I haven't had a single student anywhere that they're not supposed to be. Not once. And I personally visit every single session that happens, every single student life block, and every student is where they're supposed to be.
We have a question that I guess related to the size of school. Do you think it works well because you've got a small enough school that you can get to every session? Because how does it work in a much bigger school, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that you'd have to scale this. So it's a matter of, your context, your team, and I don't have a lot of support at the leadership level because of the size of our school, but if you're at a larger school, you probably have a leadership team, you've got teacher leaders, and so I would look at how do I empower those folks and distribute that leadership. And no, it would not be possible. If the school was twice the size, I wouldn't be able to visit every session every time.
But there would be other people on the team, no
But
doubt.
there would be other people to do that.
One question here has been about what would you offer for SEN students, like gifted and talented? Do you have a section that could do that, or is it just flexible and it would be a part of your normal program?
Yeah, so I can tell you, we have this year, one of our sessions is Mu Alpha Theta, which is essentially the Math Honor Society. So we've got some really high level math students in that. Honestly, some of the top students in the school are running our Dungeons and Dragons Club. And it's their opportunity to create, to lead, to develop those team skills and innovate. So students have a lot of choice. They can propose. A lot of our students will propose courses and clubs to lead themselves. And that works toward their CAS project, community activity and service. It also can, as Omri mentioned, build towards their service experiences that they're required to have. So really, I think that when you create and empower students, create choice and empower students and give them autonomy, that has solved itself because students select what they need on those days.
Well, another interesting question was, you said 99% attendance on Volts Wednesdays now. What did it start at? Or what would the average have been before, and how fast did it go up?
So we maybe started at 95, 96% attendance, but it's gone up pretty quickly. And this year we've gone even deeper with our focus on culture, and honestly, the 1% of students who are gone are like in the hospital sort of stuff.
Right, the ones who are not there. So we had another question or at least a question for more depth with the relationship between the primary and secondary drivers. I'm not sure if you go back to the slide and just play with that a little bit more, because that seems to be the nuts and bolts of what you wanted to do and how you can put it in place.
Sure. So really, I mean, the idea here is that you've got to start, once you've identified your problem of practice, we want to naturally really jump to, okay, how are we going to solve it? What are we exactly going to do? Which would be the change ideas. But don't start there. Start with the big ideas of, if we want to improve overall student satisfaction and well-being, what are the key areas that are going to help us get there? And I think one of the most powerful ones that we noticed was the choice, empowering students with autonomy and agency. And of course, there's a whole bunch of research on the impact of choice on students and their learning. And so by starting there and saying, okay, and 3 or 4, you can't have many more than 3 or 4 primary drivers. So we started there, and then we started to break it down. Okay, what does that look like in our context on Volts Wednesdays? What are things we can do to provide choice and to empower students? And this is a year old, what you're looking at. So if we were to update this today, again, there would be several other drivers and change ideas that have taken place.
So it's very much context driven, but an exploration of what is your key attempted change, and then what are the methods you're going to, or the themes you can use, the avenues you can use for changing, and then the specifics that you're looking for.
That's exactly it. And the process is not all that complicated. I would recommend this resource, Educational Leaders Guide to Improvement Science. You can see I've got a bunch of tabs and notes and things. This resource on its own would be all you need to really have the playbook for, if I wanted to try out improvement science in my setting, what would it look like?
Are any of the other schools in the region talking about your Volts Wednesdays? And has anyone else adopted a similar program that you know?
Actually, yes. There's another school on the island who has said, hey, that's kind of cool, and have made some attempts at it. And I don't know all the details, but I would say, looking at it as a program and saying, hey, we want to take that shiny thing and do something like that, is probably not going to be effective. It really has to be this culture work and grounding the process in the improvement science that's allowed us to be successful. And it's not all roses. It has not been perfect, and we've had plenty of bumps along the way. Yeah.
Maybe share, what was one of your biggest bumps and how'd you get over it?
So one of our bumps was teachers saying, all right, wait a minute, I'm losing class time. Is this really going to be a good thing? And I would say 90% of our teachers are now at a place where, like, yeah, I can see that this is a worthwhile investment.
So DP class hours is still in place, but other classes, there's been that more flexibility because the middle school, the MYP kids have that much more flexibility with the 2 blocks of time. Is that right?
Yeah, and our I'm gonna go up to the schedule. So our 11th and 12th grade DP students, oh yeah, there we go. They still have half of the day that is the same as our MYP. So they still get to experience the Volts Wednesday. They've just got 3 hours of time in the afternoons on Volts Wednesday where they get higher level extension time for their courses. And we still meet all the required hours for SL and HL courses.
The does this time get allowed as CAS time for the DP students?
Yeah, yes. So we have students who lead courses and clubs and use that as their CAS project.
Okay, and someone has said, please, can we put the name and author of the book? If you can put it up again between Selena and I, we can.
Here, let me
In the chat?
Yeah, I'm gonna put it in the chat right now.
Down below is probably, that'd be great. Thank you.
The Educational Leaders Guide to Improvement Science by just last names here.
Oh, here we go. Selena's already got it. So she's put it in the Educators Leaders Guide to Improvement Science with a link. Thank you, Selena.
Awesome.
So we've got both now. Excellent. One of the questions that just has come up now is about, with something like running the cafe, do you have any sort of self-assessment or teacher assessment, evaluation process of reflecting on the learning that's going on?
That's an interesting question. So we've interviewed students We survey students, but we haven't said, hey, we're going to evaluate Omri and Lexi. What are the actual skills you've learned in the cafe? That's an interesting question. And I like it because really what we're saying with Volts Wednesdays is we want to give you a chance to take your learning, your classroom learning outside the classroom and everything that it means to be an IB learner and an IB student. So, it all weaves together. And when we reflect and evaluate our students and their learner profile traits or ATL skills, we see the connection across the board. But no, we don't evaluate what did you learn during your Volts Wednesday session.
So there's a thought for the future, because you know what ACE is always on about. So what's the impact? So great to have it. Well, we're about time's up, and I think we've covered all the questions that have come up, and you've given and shared the resource. So I think we're set, Michael. Thank you so much to you and your students for sharing your experiences. It's been wonderful.
It's been our pleasure, and feel free to reach out. Love to collaborate with folks.
Thank you so much. Take care, and bye, guys. Have a great day.